Topic of the week, carbon versus the world. Hey everybody. So you might have seen on one of my recent videos that I picked up some practically new, certainly new to me, but practically new Williams. I think they're 38s, some carbon wheels. Love them. Got them put on. I've ridden, I don't know, 100 and something miles on them, 120 miles or so, and love them. So I add those wheels to my felt B2 carbon bike. I'm essentially 100% carbon now. So that's great. But is it worth the money? You know, I've asked myself that question a time or two. What does the actual cost-benefit analysis really conclude if you do the math, or at least the philosophical math, as you're training and racing these races? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the benefits of carbon over other materials like aluminum primarily. I don't think many people ride steel bikes anymore, but titanium possibly. So carbon is a much lighter material per unit than aluminum. Okay, so you can get less material, same strength, and you end up with a overall lighter bike. Okay, so that is obviously a benefit. Strength, depending on how the carbon is laid up or made. It's not made, it's layers of fabric or fibers that they lay up, but they lay it up depending on the type of bike and the purpose of the bike. Different parts of the bike are laid up differently in layers to make it either stronger or stiffer. So it can be incredibly strong, again, relative to the weight of aluminum, let's say, which allows, again, for a lighter bike, same strength or more. So that's great. Stiffness, sort of the second side of the other side of the same coin. They can make the frame very, very stiff. Bike wheels, same thing, make them really stiff. That allows you as a rider, as you're putting watts, okay, you're creating effort, you get more of your power directly to the ground, okay, as opposed to some of these other materials that aren't quite as stiff. Things are flexing more, and you're losing some fractional amount of your power because it's less efficient than the stiffer carbon frame. So there's a benefit there. Aerodynamics, because they lay this carbon up and shape it because it's fabric. They can make it almost any shape. Okay, so there's an aerodynamic quality to a carbon frame and a carbon wheel, for that matter, a deep box wheel that has benefits over steel or aluminum. Okay, you can only do so much with those different materials. So those are a lot of benefits. What are the drawbacks? So carbon, my understanding is it can be either stiff or strong, depending on how it's laid up. You can't really have them both at the same time in the same location. Okay, so these manufacturers, they're smarter than the rest of us. When they design these bikes, they will create areas on the bike, like the bottom bracket, to be really, really stiff. Okay, so that you don't lose efficiency when you're cranking. That area is not quite as strong, possibly, as an aluminum frame in that area. But they've figured it out where it doesn't really need to be. Okay, it needs to be stiff. The head tube needs to be really, really strong, because you're putting a ton of stress on that. Just think about when you you stand up and you're really, really grinding. You're putting a lot of torque on there, so it has to be really strong. But it probably flexes a little more because it's not quite as stiff. And if carbon cracks, if your frame cracks, you're pretty much out of business. Now you can repair that, but it's more expensive. It's not quite as easy as a weld on a aluminum bike. So and I don't know. There's a mental part of that where once you have a cracked carbon frame, it's like, do I really want to be on the road riding 25 miles an hour down a hill with a cracked frame that's been repaired? I don't know. Um, all right, so a lot of benefits, but what does all this really mean in terms of speed, or that's really what we're all after, I think, at the end of the day. Um, when you're considering dropping a couple thousand more dollars on a frame than you would normally. Okay, so what does it mean? According to a test done by Jim Gowerly, I believe is how it's pronounced. He's an author of a book titled Fast. A 3-pound reduction in weight will save you about 7.5 seconds over the course of a mile up a 7% grade. Okay, so going up the hill, a 1 mile stretch, a 3-pound drop in weight is going to save you about 7.5 seconds. Okay, I did some math. My fast math says that's about a 4% increase in speed. Okay, so not much of an increase, right? It's not twice. It's not half. It's 4%. So is carbon worth it? Worth the money? I guess it depends on your goals, really. Let's put this into context of an Ironman race. Okay, 140.6 mile race. Okay. Let's say you normally complete the bike leg in about 6 hours. A 3-pound weight savings will save you about 15 minutes on the bike. Okay. That ain't much of a savings. If you spent an extra $1,500, $1,000 on a carbon bike than you would on an aluminum bike, you spend another $1,000 on carbon wheels, okay, you're going to gain, and let's say that saved you 3 pounds, okay, of weight. That gained you about 15 minutes on the bike. Is it worth it? But that's not really all the whole story. So for me, what I benefit with a stiffer frame and stiffer wheels, like I mentioned before, you get more of your power to the ground. Okay, so over the course of the bike, I am not the effort. If I'm running heart rate, which I do, the effort that I put out benefits me because I'm getting more power to the ground. So I save some time on the bike, but what I'm really saving is my energy, right? I got to get off that bike and go run a marathon. So with the same effort, I'm saving time, and I'm going to be a little bit fresher coming off the bike. Okay, that's going to translate into a better pace on the run. Maybe less of a bonk at mile 13, whatever. So there, the weight savings, the stiffness, all those pay dividends on the run. Okay, so this is not about the bike so much as it is about the 140.6 mile race. So it's really, you get other benefits. At the end of the day, is carbon better than aluminum or other materials? For a triathlon, I say yes. Is it worth the price? Maybe, right? I would say if your goal is to podium or to win so you can get to Kona, then I say absolutely, you got to go with carbon. You got to go with every edge you can. If you're trying to finish the race, which that was sort of my goal first time, then maybe not so much, right? My suggestion is if you're just signed up for Ironman or thinking about it, getting into triathlon, go buy an aluminum bike and test it out. If you fall in love with the sport and you have aspirations, then you probably start saving your pennies, okay? Carbon, it's sexy, but Know what your goals are before you go write the big check, okay? All right, that's it. I do want to remind you that we are doing these videos to raise funds and bring awareness to Tying Vines, which is a nonprofit doing humanitarian work for Syrian refugees in Lebanon. If you want to learn more about Tying Vines and our fundraiser, be sure to go to my Ironman Foundation webpage, and there's a video. You can click on that video, give you an idea of what's happening to the Syrian refugees in Lebanon and other areas. It's just a tragic, tragic story. There's a donate button right there. Be sure and click that donate button. Any little bit helps. I think there's a $10 minimum. We'll take it, okay? So appreciate the help, and if you like the video, be sure and give us a thumbs up. Be sure and check us out on Facebook. You can get us there, Twitter, Instagram. You also can follow me on Strava if you use that app, if you train with it, so you can stay in touch and get updates on what's going on with our fundraiser. Again, thanks again for watching. We will see you next week.